So in other news, Trump's approval rating is going freaking up. They're gonna have a meltdown even after all of the job losses, even after they're trying to put more draconian measures in place to make the per state lockdowns last even longer. Even after basically blaming him for the virus, after all of that, even after reporters and you have blackouts like on CNN and MSNBC of the coronavirus updates and press conferences. Even after all of that, his approval rating is going up. What the hell?
Well, it's one thing when you may not like him personally or certain things that he does personally, but he has managed this situation in a way that no one ever has before, even attempted to, cared to. He saw this as a serious issue, but within reason, like a reasonably in reason. And then the media took it on this wild frenzy roller coaster. So then he had to really step up, showing, okay, here are my experts. Here are the scientists. Here's like full transparency of what is happening on a day to day. Here are the people in charge. This is what we're doing. I mean, who the hell has ever had press conferences every day for 2 hours at a clip? 2 hours at a time, this man is
Yep.
telling you over and over and over.
Yep.
So his messaging, you might not appreciate it. You might not like it. He has to say it in 10 different ways to these reporters because they always try to angle it to whatever they want to write their story about. Um, the people see it, people watch it. Not everybody's watching CNN anyway. So you don't even need to go on TV to watch it. It's on YouTube live. They stream it live every single day. So people are aware in a way that they never have been before, kind of bypassing the media. So you get the true support. Like, you might not like him, but at least you understand what's happening. And people can respect someone who's a good manager, even if they hate them.
Yep.
The
Yep.
methods and the results, it speaks louder than the personality.
Yeah, no politician could have done what this guy has done in the last couple of months. Not any mere politician. It would have had to been someone with some type of business acumen.
Exactly.
This guy, real estate developers, they understand logistics, they understand bulk buying, they understand how to mobilize resources with a
Exactly.
limit amount of time. So I'm not surprised at the results in terms of the turnaround. What are they going to do when the economy bounces back this summer? If Mnuchin is going out there and Mnuchin is saying that it's possible that we could be open for business back in May. These guys are going to have a baby if the economy bounces back. I mean,
No, they're gonna say it's the Obama changes that they had to implement. It took it's the lag time. Finally, Obama's policies are kicking
they're
in.
kicking in. Okay, all right, all right.
Thank God we had him, not this idiot.
Oh man, oh yeah. Oh my God, that is crazy. The
I
Obama.
will remind you that Obama did this, that, and the other, and that's what is happening now. Now we just see the results. How many years did they use that? The first two
Mhm.
years?
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah, they did well when Bush, when Obama was in office. They yelled Bush for like what four? They blamed Bush for like 5 years.
everything, everything, everything Christian, everything. Well, he inherited this mess.
Oh yeah, yeah, oh, yeah. He inherited the Bush mess.
Yo, so I was so you watch these things, and I forget who the guy is that was talking about 18 months of of having this kind of curfew in place and this social distancing happening up to 18 months. I think it was somebody who worked for Bloomberg, I want
No,
to
no,
say.
no, no, no,
Oh,
no.
no.
It was Zeke Emanuel, Rahm Emanuel's brother.
Yes, yes, the Emanuels.
And you know what? We gonna put that clip. We gonna play that clip. It was Ezekiel Emanuel talking about. I'm gonna post a clip on the website. I- 18 months. This dude, and he's totally. It's totally that. That's a political answer. That's
Listen,
not a
between
medical
him
answer.
and Fauci, it's like, give me a break. I need, why are we listening to these people's opinions at this point? Like,
It,
let me tell you something about reality, okay? This is going to be reality talk. People aren't really social distancing at this point right now.
hmm
Some people, in the cities or whatever, some people are super scared and they're in their apartment and they are not leaving their apartment. Like when we had the Russians, the threat of nuclear war and the
hmm
atomic bombs, and people built bunkers and they went underground and stuff like that. Okay, you got that element of people. Okay, you got the preppers who are like eating through their stash and shit. They're not even trusting going to the supermarket because the
Yep.
flu's gonna get them. Fine, you have that group of people, but for the most part, people are trying to figure out what to do, where to go. The streets are packed. Home
hmm
Depot's packed.
hmm
Walmart's packed. I mean,
Costco.
people are
hmm
keeping distance from each other, but you're still out. It's not normal as a
hmm
human being.
Yep.
Like, it's not normal to be distanced from another person. It's not. When you
hmm
talk, you come in close to have a personal conversation. Hover around each other. People who are close talkers, they're dying right now. Close talkers
hmm
cannot survive this fucking 6 foot wall that you put between us. Yeah, 6 foot imaginary line. I mean, it's so as much as people say they're social distancing and like to maybe they social distance from certain people they don't really want to be around anyways, it's not in practice. It's not happening the way that it actually should. You know what I mean?
hmm
So you think that 18 months, people are going to be doing this for even 30 more days. By the end of this month, everybody's going to be back to playing with each other, going to each other's houses. We're just not going to post pictures online. That's all. We're going to keep away from the COVID Karens who will talk shit, and we're going to be like underground railroading our fucking social lives. Like, that's what it's going to be. Yo, I'm going to take the backwoods and meet you in your backyard. Don't tell nobody I'm coming over.
I think yeah, I definitely don't see us going through the summer with this.
Dude, what we gonna do 4th of July? You think
What?
I'm not gonna you think I'm not gonna have fireworks and stuff? Come on.
Yep.
You
I
think
de-
I'm not gonna be making marshmallows and all that on my fire pit in my brand new backyard that I'm creating?
yeah.
Shit.
We gotta open up by May, early May. I was talking to a group of small business owners, and this was before even the pandemic was, kind of in sight. Things were already tight for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Things were already tight for them. Not only because of the economy was growing and whatnot, they were um, getting more revenues in, but their expenses were going up.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had the trade war, and some
Yeah.
small businesses had to endure that, and so we cannot keep this economy closed, I don't think, past May, or we're going to lose a lot of our small businesses, even with some of this bailout stuff, even with some of the bailout funds and activities. These guys got to get back into motion. Um, they're probably, even with the bailout money, they're depleting some of their savings,
Of
I would
course.
imagine. So, then they have their own personal bills and stress. Small business owners, they pay themselves last. They
Yeah.
they pay their
Oh, I
employees.
know. I know.
They pay themselves last. They got to pay their expenses. They got to pay their employees. They got to pay
Yeah.
their bills, their taxes.
But let me tell you something. For all these people going a little tangent rant right now. There's a lot of people who are out of work, right? You're a 9 to 5er and you're out of work. And it
Yep.
sucks. It totally sucks. But they have the nerve to be complaining about people who don't work, who are also going to be getting bailout money, right?
Hmm.
They're also going
Hmm.
to be. But let me tell you something about how the money rolls around. Okay. When you're a small business owner, you don't get unemployment checks if you don't get fired and laid off. You don't get social security stuff. You don't get health insurance and everything covered. You got to pay out of your pocket for every single thing that you want. So while you're complaining about whatever welfare recipient is getting an additional amount of money, I, as a small business person, pay more taxes than someone who's going to a 9 to 5 job, yet
Hmm.
I don't get the bailout.
Yep.
Now perhaps I can, but in all these years I've been working for myself, I wasn't privy to any bailout money and any unemployment money, even though I spent years and years paying into the system of it.
Yep.
Where's my coverage for all that time that I put in? You know what I'm saying? So like
Yeah.
people
There's
are so short-sighted to their own personal issues that they really have no concept of how money works, how businesses work. So it's hard for them to imagine that a business owner that you think your business owner is a millionaire, and the
they're not.
reality is they take money last, just like you said,
They're
where they
not.
have to take care of you and you get subsidized by the government. We don't get subsidized by anything. This is
Cat.
like the first unprecedented subsidies that they're coming up with, if we even get it, because who the hell knows when it's actually going to be in practice. They talk about it,
Cat.
you know?
This is why I'm not a Democrat, and will never will be, because they demonize business owners like
Hmm.
they're a bunch of billionaires or millionaires that just sit on cash. And
Yeah.
a lot of small business owners are just making it.
Yeah. You
They
make
just don't.
50,
They don't
sixty
want to work.
thousand dollars,
Yep.
but you're support but let's say you bring in $500,000, right?
Yep.
Half of that goes to taxes.
Yep.
Then you got your expenses as another 20, 30%. Then you got your overhead, that's another 20%. By the time you finish paying everybody off, you may be coming home with $60,000 a year,
Yep. Yep.
owning a very, small size business.
Yep. And
So, what the hell?
I know some small business owners that are in that 50, $60,000
Yeah,
range. I know some small business owners. Depends on the type of business that you do. That are making three, $400,000 a year. So
yeah, exactly.
I know people from all ranges, and it just it really just depends on what your hustle is and your clientele.
It's
And
also all relative because if you're making the 300,000, you're probably living in a more expensive home, have more monthly expenses. So at the end of the day, the amount of money you have to use is less, even though you might be living in a nicer house and nicer things. Everything is more money, more money, more money. Everything costs more money when you got more money.
yeah, well, I know one of my buddies. He's a CPA, and he has his own practice, and he actually bought someone else's practice too. So he bought that book of clientele. So he's making some serious money, and he's like, man, I'll never work for anybody else, like happy. And he's part of the crowd that's in that upper tier range, and the thing is, we sat down and I remember us having a conversation, and he said, man, people don't realize, us small business owners, we got to pay out a lot,
Yeah, it's
you know,
almost half.
we
It's
got to pay.
almost half.
And he hired 3 employees, and he said, when you hire employees, man,
Even
you got
more
to,
money.
you got to pay the payroll tax just to get them on your payroll.
Yep.
You got to pay, social security taxes and all that on their behalf. Like,
Yep.
there's just uh, insurance. You know, they gotta have health
Everything.
care. So
Yep.
I just hate what the demonization of the small business and
Because they don't know how it works. They just don't understand how it works. It really has to do with lack of information and education on how money actually works. Because if they listen to what people are saying and how these programs are going to come together, they'll see how the money is actually revolving around and how banks are involved and how everything is working. But most people don't pay attention. They just concerned with what they get every week from work, and that's it. They go about their lives very easy.
so yeah. So Kat, now here's one of my things. A lot of these, you got a lot of business owners. They're freaking liberals. So what's the disconnect, man? What is the disconnect?
Well, they love the loopholes. You do get a
Hmm.
lot of loopholes depending on who you know, who you support, what your area is. Look, even Trump was a Democrat while he was working in New York. You had to be involved in both sides so that you could get permits pushed through, so that you could get the licensing that you need for certain things.
Hmm.
So your business can operate. You have to play both sides. You want as much subsidies as you can and paying out as little as you can.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's all about maximizing the profits.
Yeah. True. True. Very true. What do you think is going to happen with all of this debt? Because we touched on it a few podcasts ago that they were passing this $2 trillion package. I'm worried about inflation. I'm worried about the devaluing of the dollar. At some point, we got to rein in some of this spending, man.
You got to look at it globally, though. When you talk about devaluing the dollar, it's
Hmm.
devalued in comparison to another currency, right?
Yeah, true.
So if everybody's currency and everybody's economy is shut down, then we're all at a stalemate.
Yeah, that's very true.
Nobody is advancing right now.
Hmm.
We're all still stuck in the same boat. So let's say you add another 2-3 trillion dollars to the debt. What difference does it make?
Mm.
Everybody's got trillions and trillions of dollars added to their debt.
Well, you could say, I mean, they said that in Zimbabwe and Greece. You look at how Greece collapsed, and Italy. I know they're struggling with their debt. So
But
what
we're
makes
all, yeah. What's gonna happen? Are you gonna implode? Are people gonna stop getting services? Like, what's actually gonna be the disruption to add to printing more money
mm,
at this point?
mm,
Supposedly we have a national debt. I still, even in the 90s, I was asking, who are we indebted to? We supposedly have a debt, and the interest on the debt is what we're paying more of. Who are we paying this to? Who are the people getting our money, interest payments on debt? Who?
Federal Reserve?
Exactly. They're an invented group. They're not even a government group. Like, they're invented. So you have this group of people who are in control of printing money, who then siphon away as much as they want when they want and call it debt and have it. They're like, I mean, it's nonsense.
There's a catch-22 though. So if we didn't have a Federal Reserve system, it would be up to the government, which the federal, I'm saying the executive and the legislative branches, to establish, I guess, some type of board, commission, or bureaucracy that would regulate interest rates and so forth. So they would be in charge of that. If we didn't have a Federal Reserve Bank now, if we didn't even
What
have
happened
that,
before that?
if we didn't have that, we just had the banks. So the interest rate was determined by each bank. And if you had a universal interest rate, if you pooled all the interest rates together, the market basically just determined what the rates were before we ever had a Federal Reserve. So
Exactly. Isn't that more accurate?
it's actually more it actually fits in line with where the system should be. The only thing about the Federal Reserve that I can say is that if we didn't have a Federal Reserve system, and if we didn't have that entity that was kind of tracking the business cycle, then we would have recessions probably more frequently. So we would
But
have.
those are corrections in the system,
That's
right?
true.
When you have something that's overinflated and it's not the right value, then you have to pull back
Hmm.
to make the adjustment. So you would have less of these catastrophic busts and less huge booms because it would constantly be adjusting itself.
That's true. That's true. You have less risk too. Just
Well,
think about, we have this fiat currency system. People take a lot of risks in this type of environment, so you would have less risks that think about the housing crisis, towards the end of the Bush term, right? A lot of people took a lot of risks. You would have less people taking those types of big risks that put the actual whole system in jeopardy. So
a
it's
lot of that was interference from the stupid politicians,
yep, exactly.
um, trying again to right the wrongs, to try to fix institutional racism and
Hmm.
inequalities,
Yep.
and they put bad practices into place and forced banks to basically issue loans to people that they knew would not be able to pay, and then also put in like variable interest rates that will fluctuate in 10 years after you've already got the home adjusted to your payments. Maybe things are going well. 10 years, boom, there goes your house. I mean, it's like a trick, it's like a trap. Hey, we'll give you free money. You could be a homeowner, but in the fine print, in 10 years, you won't be able to afford this shit, and we're going to take it back once the area gets rehabilitated. Then we'll gentrify your neighborhood because the only people
Hmm.
who'll be able to afford it are people who don't currently live in their neighborhood. Like, are you kidding me? Talk about
Hmm.
a trap.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. And Bush, at the end, he got blamed for all of it when he
Well, and
actually
then when he
when
left, didn't he issue the tarp?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
come on.
yeah.
Qualitative easing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like, how many years of printing extra money, printing extra money, printing extra money? They printing it out of thin air. It has no value. They're not putting that against anything. There's nothing different between the American dollar and a counterfeit dollar. Nothing.
Hmm. Hmm.
They're worth about the same.
Wow, that's true. So, quick question. While we're talking about the economy, we're talking about the Federal Reserve, and we touched on the dollar. Want to get your thought on something. Want to get your thought on something. Do you think companies, when you look at, this whole crisis, because we have two crises here, the coronavirus crisis and the economic crisis, are companies having second thoughts, making things in China? Do you think there will be companies that will, because of this crisis and because of the way that um, the Chinese communist regime has reacted, do you think they'll move some of their operations back overseas, back from overseas home, like repatriate some of that stuff?
I think some of the bigger companies will,
Hmm.
because they have enough capital and they have the ability to actually lobby certain locations. Because you got to remember, like, let's say in Pennsylvania, there was a ton of factories that are all closed because of different EPA regulations, because whatever they were making might have had some toxic, chemical waste or something like that. So they had no way of disposing of these things, and it became too expensive to process, like recycling is here. Like the amount of money it costs to actually abide by, the EPA regulations is too much for them to make it cost effective. So those things have to change. The red tape around a manufacturing plant to actually produce something has to change in order for those companies to come back, because obviously China doesn't pay their people anything. So you can get products made with a whole, like 100 Chinese people working on your product, and you pay them like $1,000 for, hundreds and hundreds of units. How is it that they're paying the people to produce that product? They can't possibly do it.
Hmm.
In the
Hmm.
US, it would probably cost you $100,000, because you have to pay people a minimum wage. You have to give them breaks. Then they have, like, so much has to go into the molds and the whole entire process. Where in China, they don't have any of those rules, those labor laws. They don't care.
Hmm. Well,
They just pump your stuff.
governments have made it so expensive to do business here
Yeah.
on the state and federal level. People think, you know, people think that up and overnight that, corporate America decided that they wanted to do outsourcing. And yes, I do blame the trade deals that have been put into place by politicians for the last 20 years or so. That's part of the blame. But part of it is them making it more expensive
Mm-hmm.
for companies to do business, even small businesses that are here locally. Um, get things from overseas, or they outsource certain services. So, it's really just the withering down of, the middle class.
Well,
And
our country and our economy became global a long time ago. It didn't
yep.
just start. You
Hmm.
know, manufacturing in China has been there for the longest time. It was just so piss poor that you wouldn't want to buy anything for real. Like, unless it
Yeah.
was throwaway items, you wouldn't get anything for real. We know that they make flooring and walls and all types of construction products with asbestos in it, and with lead, high levels of lead, high levels of polyurethane, gases that come up after you lay a a cheap rug down
Hmm.
in your space. So we know that they don't abide by certain chemical restrictions and things like that. They will sell you anything. If you're willing to pay for it, they will sell it to you,
Hmm.
which is the problem, because they make a lot of drugs too.
Hmm.
There are pharmaceuticals. They make household goods. They make all kinds of stuff that we consume because it's cheap, and then we get sick off of all of the time.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
there's a lot more involved than just asking a company to come back to the United States.
Well, I'm part of the tax reform, and that's why I supported the tax reform. It made repatriation of assets easier, especially financial assets. So companies were free. That's why, during, the first couple of years, during the first, I would say year after they passed tax reform, you saw a lot of companies. If you were really looking at the indexes, there are a lot of companies repatriating dollars,
Mm-hmm.
reallocating R&D money to the U.S. versus doing that R&D overseas,
Right.
bringing cash assets back. So that's a part of it. The second part of the thread that the Trump administration got right was the deregulation agenda. And so them
Yes.
deregulating, they, I mean, they erase so many regulations I think they pretty much erased the entire second term of Obama regulations.
Yes.
That they
Yes.
and so that you had the tax reform coupled with the deregulation agenda. That's why the economy took off. It wasn't the Obama policies. It was the fact Trump came in, they passed tax reform, and then his deregulation agenda, and he was kind of living off of that. Even with, he had a slow Congress under the Republicans and the Democrats, so he was kind of living off of the tax reform and the deregulation agenda. So
Yeah, and that's what needs to happen across the board and a lot of things. That's why right now things are moving a lot faster with the test kits and all that because he had to go and talk to the FDA and be like, look, this is the stuff we need today. These are
yeah,
the things we need right now. We
yeah,
can't go through your 16 levels of testing, write this permit, mail it in, have somebody stamp it and sign it. Like we need stuff happening today. So now I think this situation has brought into light um, how medicines, how testing, how vaccines, how the whole system works, and where the bottlenecks are in the system, where the red tape is that we need to get rid of, how to streamline the process, why it costs so much money. Like now you could actually focus on this because it's in everybody's face right now. There's so many different ways to modify the healthcare system that would make it better for people from a health perspective, better
hmm
for doctors to treat their own patients, which is why I do appreciate that he's allowing state by state, doctor by doctor to kind of see what they want to do with regard to disseminating a vaccine or
yeah,
trying something or giving prescriptions rather than saying, oh, yeah, this is what we should do across the board. Because you don't freaking know what's happening in every city, every,
yep,
situation.
yep, yep. That's why that's why I don't understand and Trump came out there a couple of weeks ago, pushing the hydroxychloroquine drug. Of course, you and I talked about this on the show. There are some
Hmm.
French researchers. They've had a lot of success with it, and there's been a few cases here, in the United States. Specifically, there was a gentleman in Florida who was like knocking on death's door, until he received the hydroxychloroquine drug. There was actually a Dem rep in Michigan.
Yeah, I
Um,
saw that.
and she also didn't feel better. She thanked President Trump actually for recommending the drug. She didn't know anything about it. She sent her husband out to her doctor to get the treatment, and she recovered. So the media, they have this ongoing blitz, to discredit the hydroxychloroquine drug. Why are they trying to? Do they not want people to get better? Are they that sick?
I think that, like I said, like initially, they are so anti-Trump that they do it even at the risk of their own health.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they didn't want to listen to him. That's why Nancy Pelosi went out when he said, no, we got to cut off everything to China. Wasn't she in San Francisco at
Mm-hmm.
the Chinese New Year events
Mm-hmm.
in Chinatown, talking about she loves it, it's safe, and everything is good out there? At their own peril, they will do everything opposite to what Trump says. If he said, hi, what he should do if he really wants to manipulate the situation, what he should do is say the opposite of what he wants people to do.
That's true.
Be like, do not take this drug. I will not allow anyone to take this drug. And then
That's true.
everybody on the streets, it'll be hot, like $100 for a hydroxychloroquine pill. Like, they'll be
That's true.
selling it everywhere. But because he recommended it, you know, and I told you before, I don't believe in any drugs or vaccines or any of that crap.
Mm-hmm.
However, however, if you ain't got nothing else and you ain't got nothing to lose, even if it's a placebo effect, why not try it?
Yeah.
Why not
Yeah.
try it?
Yeah.
You got to give yourself the last shot, the last boost, the last try so that you could get better. Try it.
Look,
I mean, you might die anyways.
that's true. I mean, if I had no other option, I would want to try it. Look,
Of
listen to
course.
this. Listen to this. This is Maxine Waters' tweet from a few days ago. Do not listen to 45 when he suggests
Yeah.
untested hydroxychloroquine to treat COVID-19. Listen to Dr. Fauci. Don't listen to 45 when he says he will kill the virus or he won't wear a mask or when he calls hospital workers thieves or refuses a national lockdown. 45 just can't be trusted.
This coming
Is she
from,
nuts?
yeah, because look at the big picture, right? This is a Black woman knowing the reports on the fact that African Americans are the hardest hit communities and having that been pointed out by Trump and by Pence on them wanting to get to the bottom of why there is this kind of disparity that this virus is hitting the Black community. Now you have a Black leader telling you not to take the drug that other people are saying has helped them turn the illness around to where they thought they were at death's door. She's advising you basically to commit suicide because don't trust Trump. That's the message. That's the message. Don't
That's
trust Trump.
crazy.
You know the
That
drug that might save your life? Don't take it. Trump doesn't know. Don't take it. Hate him so much that you're going to cough a lung up and die because you won't take the drug that's actually coming for free. They're
that is
willing to give it to
crazy.
you for free.
That is
I mean,
absolutely insane.
that's how nutty it is. You got the Black representative killing off all the Black people who follow her because really that's who her supporters are, right?
Hmm.
So, how is that for a message to you? Knowing that you're the most susceptible group for whatever reason.
That's just the average day in the Congressional Black Caucus.
So you can't listen to that. You can't. She tells people initially, you see a supporter of Trump, you see one of his cabinet members, you see somebody who working for him out in the streets, harass them, get into their face. Okay, you want to tell a bunch of Black people who already got problems with the police to go start harassing a bunch of white politicians. Okay, that works. That makes sense for you and your community. That's the dumbest fucking advice I ever heard in life. But they
Exactly.
so they're so demented on reality, like their perceptions are so warped that this is the advice that this woman is giving her constituents who are already feel like a target of the police.
Yeah.
So now you want to go out and be physically assaulting and harassing white politicians. You know what I mean? Like it's cuckoo.
It makes no sense to me. It makes
Totally
no.
cuckoo.
I don't know. I got to these looking at that because we're talking about following. We're talking about police and adherence to the police. What is going on with some of these draconian measures that these liberal governors and mayors are? It's getting crazy out there. It's getting crazy out there in terms of I mean, I think a lot of the lockdown procedures are necessary, but
Yeah.
I just think I have to think. A part of me is that they're going a little overboard with it, and I think some of these politicians, particularly, I'm thinking of the mayor um, in LA and some others, they want to see how far they can go. There's a fine line between putting in the right measures in place, making sure that people are safe and social distancing, and so forth. But then there's another thing of, okay, let's see how far that we can take this. This is a new toy. I kind of want to play with this for a little while. And I think the lines are blurred a little bit.
I
Um,
think they're blurred a lot of it, but I don't think it's for the reason that they want to see how far they can take it. I think that you have a situation where you have people who are in charge who are not real leaders, who are not real communicators,
mhm,
and they don't 100% have the trust of the people that they represent. So
mhm,
when you tell people, stay home, this is for your own good, and you're not able to convince them to do that, and you can see that they're defiant and they're still
mhm,
going out and they're not believing, is because you don't actually have any authority or control over them. So how do you impose that authority? You
mhm,
threaten them with fines, you threaten them with their neighbors ratting them out, you put in all these other measures to impose your will on them instead of trying to have an actual relationship with someone who can trust you and be like, yo, so this is for our own good. We need to all pay attention because this is going to be what is saving our lives potentially and getting us out of this quarantine situation faster. Instead, you have them imposing their authority on you by way
mhm,
of the police department. So,
mhm.
what does that do as a leader? You just put a target on all of your uh, police officers back, basically.
Mm,
So
mhm.
now people are not trying to see a cop and be like, oh, hey, whatever. You're trying to not see a cop. You're trying to evade all contact with sheriffs, police. I mean, that's what you create. So now you're
Yep,
like sneaking around, skulking around because people don't change their behavior. They don't stop doing what they want to do. They just stop doing it in front of you.
that's true. Because,
It's
guess what? People, I can imagine people are probably getting their hair done, getting their nails done
hell
over this
yeah.
week. You know, I know the
You want
strippers.
your eyebrows done? I'll do some I'll do some microblading on your ass. I got masks.
Strippers are doing house calls.
All that.
The Snapchat and the OnlyFans economy is off the chains right
Come
now. You,
on.
you hear me?
But you're not going to, there's always going to be an underground behavior. People are always going to do whatever they want to do. They just got to figure out how to sneak around so that they don't get in trouble or caught or be seen and then harassed by you. So it's like a kid. I told Chuchi about 15 times she cannot have a lollipop. Do you know she found a chair to another chair to get onto the counter to climb up in the cabinet to get the lollipop she
Oh
wanted?
my God, not Choochie. Don't do it, Choochie.
I'm like, I see her later on and her mouth is all blue. I'm like, how the hell did your mouth get blue? She's like, I had a lollipop. Remember you said I could get it? I was like, no, I told you exactly you cannot get it. You cannot get it. She waited until I was working and figured out her own way to get what she wanted. That is what
That's
people do. They
yeah.
are self serving and self satisfying in every situation. So you think you're going to control them by threatening? You're not. That just shows that you're not really a good leader. And instead of being able to convince someone because they trust your decision making and judgment, you have to impose authority and then they just figure out 20 different ways to get around it. That's it.
This is The Cure.